Get started on time.
Oh, yeah.
Woo! All right, so we have a lot to cover today, and there are some additional items that are going to get worked in that happened in between now or between when the agenda went out and now. So let's do really super fast. We have a new board. Yay! So board members, please raise your hands. And we're going to introduce ourselves really fast. I'll start. I'm Chelsea Powers. I'm the chair. And we're going to go, Lynn, you go next.
Lynn, Rec, I'm the treasurer.
Derek, board member at large.
Tina Bjornstedt-Shafransky, member at large. Stephanie Frederick, secretary and transportation co-chair. Pam Hodge, member at large.
Garrett Kransky, new to the board.
Let's see, Shannon, I think you're
Okay, Shannon Kane, and I'm just a member at large.
Okay. Jean, you're next. Gail.
Gail Kiley, I've been here forever.
Rob Hennepin, vice chair.
Excellent. And I know we have many community members here, but a good portion of them are going to get to introduce themselves during community announcements. So, which we're going to go ahead and roll into. I'm going to go ahead and let Carol go ahead and do hers, and then we'll go to Mary.
All right. I'm Carol Beauty. I'm your librarian at the Woodstock Library, but I represent all of the Multnomah County Libraries, so there you will find event flyers for both Woodstock and Boulder up on the table. But the important one is the summer. Summer reading is going to kick in as soon as school is out. This is a list of all our activities for younger and school-aged children. There are some teen camps and stuff you can find on the website, but this is all the kid activities. And you're welcome to take these. If you know anybody who has a kid, take a copy for them. Everything's on Wednesday, everything's at 2 o'clock. It's really simple. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Mary, you're next.
Hey, Mary Davis, I'm a neighbor, but I also come to give you a report on what's going on at the Leach Botanical Garden. And we have a summer series coming up this year. It's called Summer Sippin', and it focuses on libations. The July program is on wine. The August one is on cider. September has 2 this year. One is on tea from a brand new tea company in the Willamette Valley, and the final one is on bitters. So they're Wednesdays at 6, and the per session is 15 for non-Leach Garden friends, and for Leach Garden friends, they're 10. There's also a series package price that's quite a bit lower if you're interested in doing the whole series. And the other piece I wanted to let you know is the summer hours have started, so on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, the garden is open until 7 p.m. And we hope that maybe we'll have some concerts on Tuesdays. But I will let you know next month.
Great.
You have more information.
Thank you. All right. Esther is not here from PTA. Her daughter is promoting to high school tonight, so she's there. But I will kind of talk about I went to the PTA meeting. They're really in need of members. They currently don't have enough members to have a full board. So if you're passionate about schools, or you have a student, or you're just a community member, you can absolutely join the Lane PTA. And that's, of course, the middle school back over here. And they're closing out their year. They don't have a lot of events over the summer, but in August, all the PPS schools do a Community Cares Day. It's usually the weekend before school starts, so they're anticipating it being August 25th. It's not set in stone yet. They have to wait for PPS to let them know. But that's kind of tentative, so mark out your calendars for August 25th. They're trying to get Lane as a signature school, so it'll get more care this year. And also, as many of you know, PPS voted to co-locate access to Vestal and Lane, and that is a very long subject, and we will be talking about it more in our second half. But if you're interested in that, concerned about that, or want to know more, stay for our second half. Finally, they have a bottle drop account at the Bottle Drop in Clackamas. You can email Esther to come get them, and we have that linked on our site and in our newsletters, or you can drop it yourself, you just need the bag with the label. So if you have any questions about that, I can put you in contact with Esther. All right, Grant, BDNA Watch.
Excellent. Hey, I'm Grant Williams. I'm the guy that runs the community watch here in our neighborhood. This month's been pretty busy. We've had a lot of small things, nothing I would consider to be exceptionally large or with a lot of reverberating, rippling effect in the neighborhood. Lots of acute stuff all over the place, which is a certain improvement over last year. Last summer it was pretty crazy by this time. We're seeing the relative level of disorder, as I politely call it, seems to be concentrating around the parks as it usually does, and it seems to be a seasonally regulated kind of pattern. We see a lot of things happen when the thaw comes and it starts to be warm and nice. People spend a lot more time doing things that might concern us in terms of having people in the park doing drugs and things of that nature. So we're keeping an eye out for that. On a more positive note, PBOT, the people that are in charge of all the signage in the parks, and basically we had to hammer out an agreement with them to get them to mount the no overnight parking and no overnight camping signs in the various parks of the neighborhood. And the next one that's going to be done is Brentwood Park, so that's going to be quote very soon. So what that translates into, yeah, some of you speak Portland and you understand that very soon means checks in the mail.
Hazeltine's done.
I know, that was nice. They did that one lickety split. Now we need to see some action in the other areas. But anyhow, other neat thing that we got going on in the community watch is we had an app developer. He actually is a guy that typically comes and videos our meetings. His name's Andrew. He's a very, very sharp guy, very smart gentleman. He's actually making a program that's specific to Brentwood, Darlington. He's programming it with our community in mind. He's also using the same template in Lents and in Montevilla. And the idea is to provide us with a crime tracking tool that's real time and allows us to basically be like a secondary emergency alert system to each other if somebody's doing something in that moment that might affect you, police chase in your neighborhood. Sometimes you don't necessarily get that information immediately. The idea is to have us be able to get that information out to our users as quickly as possible. And then lastly, and probably this is the most concerning thing that we've seen over the last month, is vandalism of our public property and harassment on public property, and even in our schools. We've seen that affected my family yesterday, so I'm still kind of raw about it, but I'm not going to go into the details. I'm just saying that we seem to have a vacuum of interest in managing the behavior of students outside of school. And it's creating issues with adults, people that have been on this board who I will honor their anonymity, have had incidents that are very, they're troubling. We'll just say it like that. And I think that we need to ask ourselves how comfortable we are engaging, Lane, Woodmere, Whitman, these different schools, and even on a volunteer basis, maybe seeing if there's something that we can do to fill a vacuum of interest in these kids' lives, because we've seen so much vandalism and so much misbehavior. It's just one of those things that I personally, and this isn't really in the purview of the Community Watch Group, but as an individual, I think it's something we need to take an interest in. But anyhow, yeah, we're still working on signage for individual properties as well. I haven't forgot that. I had a pretty major event happen in my life this last month, so I have let a few projects slide, but next month I should have an update on signage for individual properties.
Really fast before you ask your question, Pam, I totally forgot to introduce our interpreter, Jessica, so if anybody needs interpretation, I'm so sorry.
Hi.
Hola, buenas tardes. ¿Alguien necesita la interpretación? Avísame, por favor.
Go ahead, Pam, your question.
So Brent, a few months ago, Sergeant Teague from East Precinct was here and handed out this Brentwood Darlington Livability Action Plan. Do you know what's going on with that?
It's very much happening. We're seeing extremely sharp increase in patrols along Ogden, Flavel, Duke, the main thoroughfares that kind of transect Brentwood, Darlington. They're very actively patrolled. We get people reporting constantly of the ATV patrols going up and down the Springwood corridor. They have actually stepped up and done what they said they were going to do. However, I don't think they anticipated the level of disorder, the curve that we're on right now. Because even with all this added help that we're getting in Brentwood, Darlington, basically what it's creating is hotspots just outside of the neighborhoods that have these livability plans. So areas that were previously not so affected are now being affected. It's just kind of like I guess you could call it an osmosis effect of crime. Because, yeah, we're putting the pressure on really high here, and then that just goes to adjacent areas that don't have that infrastructure.
So are you attending those East Precinct meetings, like?
As often as I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Glad somebody is.
The board is looking for a new East Precinct liaison if the Community Watch wanted to fill that void for a while.
All right.
So,
Well,
think
fine.
about it.
Yeah, I'll put that out there. Thanks.
Excellent. Do we have any other community announcements? I did have a concern from a neighbor about an intersection with some cars parked, and Grant, I did send that to you, so they wanted to make sure it was talked about, so I'll make sure that you get it to report to Ty.
Okay, I can do that.
Excellent. Okay, so now, as per our bylaws, we need to do a work plan. So I have just a couple more quick announcements of upcoming events, and then what we're going to do is we're going to break into little groups. And I've put our committees up here, and so everybody's going to get some sticky notes, and we're all going to kind of think about what we want from our neighborhood in the next year. And before we do that, we have a strategic planning committee that has been going over our neighborhood assessment that was done by PSU students in 2017 to make sure and pull out the finer points of it that we could be doing, should be doing, would be really great if we could do. And also those items that coordinate well with other projects that are already in process from different city bureaus where we can take advantage of the train already in motion. So the last few announcements I have are just upcoming events, and there is a upcoming events little card over there, and so you can check that out, and on the back it has a different one. So not on this card is June 10th, the Three Sisters Tortillas, that's 72nd and Flavel. They bought the old, was it a Jewish church?
Once upon a time, video or full
Many things. They are having a work plan in partnership with Village Building Convergence on June 10th from 10 to 3. Everybody's welcome. They're going to completely redo their landscaping, among other things. On June 16th is Paint the Town Green, and our section is along 82nd from Duke to Flavel. Please sign up and join us. Breakfast, snacks, and lunch provided, everything, all the tools provided. Just come out and pick up some garbage, scrape some stickers, it'll feel really good. We have posters over there. If you want to take them with you, I hang them up places, please do.
So what are the times on that?
It is 9 to 1, June 16th. And there is a Planning and Sustainability Commission hearing on June 12th. And we'll be talking about that more in land use and transportation, but they are working on a manufactured dwelling zoning effort that is potentially protective of our naturally occurring affordable housing. So if you're interested in that, stay for our second half. And the last announcement before we turn it over to the Strategic Planning Committee is the mayor will be coming to our meeting again. He's going to be at our September meeting. So if you want to come talk to the mayor, come in September. And possibly in August, the environmental overlay zone that I have pictures of over there, they are hoping to come in August to talk about that. So now I'm going to turn it over to our amazing strategic planning group. And they're going to tell us about some of the things that we should definitely consider putting on our work plan.
Okay, hello everybody. Again, I'm Stephanie Frederick. I'm the Secretary and also Transportation Co-Chair on the board, and I'm a member of a new committee which we just informally dubbed Strategic Planning Committee, Strategic Action. I don't even remember now, but it was just to give us a name. And we met very recently to discuss the Brentwood-Darlington Neighborhood Assessment and Action Plan. This is an in-depth study of Brentwood Darlington that was done by students in the master's program at PSU's Department of Urban and Regional Planning. And it is really a treasure trove for us and something that we should try to take advantage of. It includes an action plan with 9 different goals, and scattered through those goals are 42 sub-goals. It's a lot of goals and a lot of sub-goals, but we feel that we should do everything we can to use the resources and the information behind this plan. Okay, so this plan was published a year ago, and we haven't acted on it because our wonderful staff person in the city, Marty Stockton, who's with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, was trying to get planning and implementation money for us, first from the city, then from Metro, and she couldn't get it. And she tried very hard. She's a big fan and supporter of Brentwood Darlington. So now we are faced with how do we implement this plan or parts of it ourselves. And so we are proposing that we begin working on certain goals in housing, transportation, zoning, and development, and I'll go over the details in a moment. And in the meantime, the Strategic Action Committee, and everyone is welcome to join us, plans to meet every month to work its way one by one through all of the goals, to prioritize goals, to track progress on all of them, which will also include what city agencies may be taking steps to affect certain goals so that we know where we stand on everything and we can see when it's time to go down to city council, when it's time to write a letter of support, when it's time to reach out to our neighbors to get to do some coalition building and advocacy. So we hope that the board will adopt this idea of working every month, focusing on some portion of this plan, and we may focus on one part for 3 months or whatever it takes, but not let this incredible study go to waste. And as Pam has said, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to have this handed to us, this in-depth evaluation of our neighborhood. It's very interesting to read. It's available at the Brentwood Darlington Neighborhood Association website. Just in the search bar, just type in assessment.
If you type in neighborhood assessment, it comes up. I'm also going to hopefully add it up to our top bar choices soon. And we have a few copies. It's a very large document. We have a few copies here. Do not take them, it says. And also, if you would like it on a copy of a CD, like if you don't want to download a large file, you can email me and I'd be happy to burn it to a CD for you.
Okay, so I'd like to go over some of the main goals and sub-goals with you, the ones that it appears that we should focus on first, even as the committee is working its way through all of them. We as a board, with organizational help from the committee, will focus on housing, transportation, zoning, and development. Now, in the housing, sub-goals 1, 2, and 3 are 1, purchase, and this wouldn't be us, but we would be following and advocating. Purchase naturally occurring affordable multifamily and mobile home park properties to guarantee long-term affordability. So as you know, Brentwood Darlington is not the wealthiest neighborhood. We're the best, but we're not the wealthiest, right? And we need to make sure that we have affordable housing in our neighborhood where our families can stay. And one thing I feel that we need to let wealthier people know is that if you push all the non-wealthy people out, you no longer have the support system you need in the form of teachers, nannies, gardeners, people who work in fast food restaurants. You lose your world. This happened in Orange County. It's very gratifying to see, and it's since been rectified by creating affordable housing in Orange County, but the rich people lost their support group. all of a sudden, there wasn't anyone to take care of the kids or mow the lawn. So we don't want to see that happen. It's an argument that others will listen to often. So I like to see it made. Okay, goal number 2, support right of first refusal legislation for mobile home parks. We can do that. Other partners would be taking the lead on that, but this allows people who live in mobile home parks to organize and make an offer on the property themselves. 1.3, create a mobile home park overlay zone. This is something we can do right away. The city is now working on creating what's called a base overlay zone, right?
Yes,
And,
a manufactured dwelling park zoning project, and that's what's going to be discussed at the June 12th.
Okay, so
Sustainability.
from what I've been reading, you need that before you can have the kind of overlay zone that was referenced in our assessment plan. So we need to support that. I volunteered to write a letter of advocacy and I haven't done it yet, I'm sorry.
It's okay, you'll have a chance to talk about that more in the second half.
Right, okay. All right, so we can get going on those 2 things. Marty will help us with the first 2 that have to do with purchasing property, because she knows the different agencies that are working on that sort of thing. All right, then we have a lot of transportation projects that we can work on. And when I say we on the transportation projects, the best thing we can do is work through what's called Portland Southeast in Active Motion. It's a newly formed group composed of Mount Scott, Arleta, Woodstock, Brentwood, Darlington, and we are hoping to bring in other neighborhoods. We're working on creating a proposal to get official good funding for planning from the city, where the staff would be involved and would help us put together a transportation plan that's would be similar like the one that Cully did recently, where it was that placed Cully in a position to get a lot of good money from the city. So the transportation part, and I am part of SEAM. But anyone here who wishes to join us or work on our land use committee and then come to see meetings, absolutely welcome. Your input on which intersections, what bus service, everything that we need improvements on, it's really is critical. So one of the things that we need to work on in transportation, and I'll just name a couple. Improve ADA accessibility in the neighborhood. Okay, so we're going to get our sidewalk infills along Flavelle and Duke, and that's going to help a lot. But we can't stop there because we have lots of places that are just ragged edges and potholes, and eventually we need more sidewalks, more access to services. Then 4.2, prioritize safety and connectivity improvements using safe routes to school, envision zero data. That's something that can be done through the planning process with SEAM. 4.3, reroute the bus line 19 over the Tillicum Bridge. Right now it gets caught in rush hour traffic on the Ross Island Bridge. And it seems kind of silly, but the Tillicum is right there. No cars, and that's something that we can advocate for, and it will be in the SEAM plan. Let's see. There are safety concerns. Maybe we even need a new bus line. We need a connection up to the Mount Scott Community Center. We need to partner with PBOT, perhaps making a Play Street a part of Cooper. So the Cooper project is sort of in existence. We don't know where it is.
I believe it is kind of stalled, and
I see.
Some of the project was not adopted, I think kind of in the same line as Marty's funding for BPS projects for the neighborhood. There's been a lot of no's lately on projects, so to my knowledge, that project is kind of stalled out.
Okay,
And
but
not
we need
currently in
to,
motion.
as a neighborhood association, we can become a much more noticeable voice in the year to come, directly from us and through the Portland Southeast in Active Motion. One thing we want to add to the transportation is the intersection at 72nd and Duke. There have been lots of accidents there, and I have been calling, Chelsea filed with the city that it got a traffic number, it was a safety issue, and I have been calling and calling and calling to find out what it is, and no response.
Well, and they actually assigned a traffic engineer to it, and I've never been able to get a response.
Well, I'm tracking every call. And we are going to first write a letter to Mr. Commissioner Saltzman, but then if that doesn't work, we'll go to the city council. And we will get some action on this, on this intersection. So let me go on to zoning and development. Okay, so one of the zoning projects is 1.4. This is consider higher density residential zoning adjacent to 52nd and 72nd avenues to expand housing types next to services and amenities. Marty Stockton, our friend, advised us to discuss this, so our small committee will come up with the discussion points, and then we can present them to the board, and we can decide whether we want this or not. If we do, Marty will help us implement it. Okay, so that is one thing, and then the next one, 5.6, excuse me just a second. Okay, look for opportunity areas to extend commercial activity on 72nd south of Flavel. We can work with Venture Portland and see if we can help, see if we could get interest from people to locate businesses there. There was one business that Candy's, the little store.
Yeah, a car drove through it and now it is closed, and I'm not sure what the status is on it.
Condemned. They're going to have to raise it and rebuild.
But their zoning will stay the same. I mean, a little
Far as I
commercial
know.
entity
Right in the
could
corner.
arise in its place.
Oh, I hope so, yeah.
Right on the corner,
definitely.
72nd?
No.
In class?
Any other goals?
Okay, no, that's it. I'm sorry to take up the time. The committee will meet every month. We need lots of resources, but we will discuss this as we go along. And I'm hoping that we, as a board, will vote to adopt this approach to use our plan and work on it this year, next year, whatever it takes to get it done.
Isn't that what we had discussed? That
I think
it's a long-term 5 to 10 year plan.
Oh, it is. I mean, we can't, right. There's no one goal that we can accomplish tomorrow, but, the end of next week. So it is something we would work on in the long term. But let me see if there's anything else. Okay, so is this something that later after we discuss all our work plan, then we'll vote, or?
So what's going to happen today is we're going to come up with all of the ideas for our work plan, and then over the next month, the BDNA, hopefully with the help of the Strategic Planning Committee, will kind of dial it down in taking, common themes and dial it down into a 12-month work plan and bring it to our July meeting for approval.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
So can I just give a 30-second add-on to that?
Absolutely.
Just in terms of process, as we were preparing for this public meeting, we had a board work session on May 22nd to figure out, what we needed to research in preparation for this meeting. So what surfaced on May 22nd, I said, do we know what the status of this comprehensive report that was done a year ago by the Portland State students is? And we didn't. So I was tasked with following up with Marty Stockton at the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability to find out what happened. And so 4 of us, Tina, Meg, who's not here today, Stephanie and myself, just met informally to review this before I contacted Marty. And so that happened on June 2nd, and then we scheduled a conference call with her, including Chelsea, this week, June 5th. And she gave us the background on the grant application that we supported to Metro, and that was rejected, and how she had presented in the mayor's budget for the coming year funding to do a formal legislative process where both the city council and Multnomah County formally adopted this as the plan for Brentwood Darlington to guide city agencies in priorities to implement these recommendations. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and so we found out in the conference call that she may have up to 40% of her time as a Southeast liaison at the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability to work with Brentwood Darlington. She'll probably know in the next month or so whether that portion of her time is approved to work with us, and she gave us some insight into what pieces of this might be poised for action based upon her understanding of city agency priorities. So that's sort of, I think, what you were trying to capture. It's not necessarily the subcommittee here's idea of these are the most important issues. It's just opportunistically, 20 years from now, maybe all of this will be adopted, but what can we move forward now? And we were sort of relying upon Marty's perspective in that.
Thank you.
So what I would personally like to see, and I guess that leads into the next thing, is that we track all of these goals and action plans on a monthly basis and just report back at our public meetings of which ones can we move forward on now and which are just on the back burner until we can leverage, some city or other agency to move forward with us. But not lose track of this, because this was a very in-depth process that students went through with surveys to the community and focus groups, and it is the closest thing we have to a comprehensive plan for Brentwood Darlington.
Agreed.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Greg.
Was there any reasoning given as to why they didn't accept the grant at Metro and then why it was rejected from City Council? Was it just arbitrary, like, not this year, it's not in the budget?
No, I think what Marty shared with us is the city as a whole made 9 proposals to Metro. Only 2 were adopted, and the lens that Metro was looking at was what would create construction activity. Did I get that right?
I'm not 100% on that.
Anyway, it was a particular lens, and we didn't fit within that little slot. So it wasn't, I think, any animus against Brentwood Darlington. It's just most of what the city wanted to see funded wasn't adopted by Metro. And then in the city budget process, the mayor's proposed budget did not include these things. We don't quite know why. We spent some time talking about, are there any case studies that we can learn from, and Cully and East Portland were mentioned, and the keys there, I think, were you need like high-level political champions, which is maybe something as a board we can work on going forward.
I think that's one of the goals that's in there as well.
Right.
So it was honestly, as far as the mayor's concerned, maybe I'm not even going to assume why he wouldn't have put it in his budget, but we should really remember this when he comes to business.
That's what I'm thinking in September.
An excellent question to ask in September. Before we break into groups, I just want to say we have done a few of our goals. Goal 7.5, except for tonight, we provide childcare and neighborhood meetings. Unfortunately, our person tonight was unable to make it, but we have been not consistently, but trying really hard to provide activities for kids so more parents can attend. 7.6, provide language translation for documents and interpretation at meetings. We have Jessica. Someday, hopefully, somebody will take advantage of her services. We've also been translating as many of our handouts and things as possible into Spanish, thanks to the help of a neighbor who's unable to attend meetings. And we've also been working on goal 7.7 of increasing reach in our neighborhood communication networks. Derek's been instrumental in that, as has Pam in New Neighbor Outreach. And then just to note that goals don't always work out. Goal 6.1 of adding trash cans at bus stops has had some unintended consequences of everybody dumps their trash there, and then Stephanie unfortunately has to clean it up. So
You mean household trash?
yes. So we will be discontinuing the TriMet can program after it is up and advocating for a different type of trash can in our neighborhood. So now here's what.
Can I just comment
Yes.
though that I still want to go on maintaining those stops, but what we discovered is that the existence of the canister there invites dumping.
Yep.
So if it's gone, there's less dumping. We had somebody stuff their 6-foot tall Dad Christmas tree.
Yeah, about 4 months after Christmas.
I could've went
All
to
right,
Green
so
Day.
we're running a little behind, so we don't have quite as much time for work groups, but I'm going to pass sticky notes around and take a sticky note per 2 people or 3, depending on how many is at your table. Break into groups with your table mates. Think about what you would like to see based on what you heard, based on your own projects in the neighborhood. Write them on a sticky note, stick them on the appropriate paper up there, and then we will regroup at 7:45 to talk about what's on those papers. And if you need a pen or pencil, they're over there, Garrett.
Chelsea, can you reframe for us what we should be writing on these sticky notes? Are these things we want to see happen in the next year, or things we're willing to be a part of to make happen? Maybe?
I would say all of the above.
Okay.
If there's an event you'd like to happen, if there's something you're passionate about in the neighborhood that you'd like to change, if there's something you want to be a part of, if one of those goals that Stephanie talked about really rang for you, and ADA ramps is your thing, put that on there. We really want to know, what does the neighborhood want? Beyond the projects that we can benefit the neighborhood with from this plan, what else do you want to see? What else concerns you? What else gets you excited about our neighborhood? No idea is a bad idea, so partner up, talk amongst yourselves, and we'll regroup at 7:45. So you have about 10 minutes.
While we're waiting for the sticky notes to go around, Saturday, July 7th, there's a fundraiser here for the community center. If you've ever heard of Party Light, it's a candle company, and we're going to do a quarter auction. You bring a roll of quarters, you get to buy a bidding paddle, and they bring out various candles and candle holders. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's very informal, snacks and stuff. There's a couple of flyers over on the table. Lots of fun.
Yeah, so support the community center, come for a fundraiser. All right. So, talk amongst yourselves. Sorry, I'm also Meg. But so you can kind of see what your neighbors are thinking. Remember, we're going to bring a plan next month for approval. So you can think of something later this week and email us and say, oh, hey, is it too late to consider this? So let's kind of talk about some of the things we have. So for all the events and outreach, I think things like doing another cleanup in the fall, physical presence in Harney Parks. Are we thinking more, who was, physical presence in Harney Park, are we thinking like brochures or signage? Can we, okay, we're gonna go with that.
Big old party.
That would be wonderful. I see street art, a candidate debate for October, that would be interesting. Better communication with Johnson Creek Water Commission and Arrow Heights. And better engagement, get more residents involved, lots of tables of resources, monetizing events, community watch patrols, I think those might be popular, more fun holiday events. We currently do Spooktacular, so that would be interesting. And this, once a month, have a family, is that family arts?
Oh, family game night.
Oh, family game night, okay.
Oh, family art night.
So that's community events and community presence. Land use and transportation, I see a lot of improving buses, rerouting the 19, bus on Flavelle Drive. I see things about speeding and speed bumps. Last mile transit connections, mobility, commercial zoning, paving roads. I think those themes are pretty repeating here. Equity and inclusion, I couldn't make it, but she did see it, says her goals, things like developing a mission statement or a vision statement, scheduling educational speakers. Looks like projects for certain areas where they could benefit people. More services for the homeless, engaging minorities, and getting more diversity on the board. Yes, please, we would love that. And more contact with other community associations. We are working with several neighborhood associations, so we're working on that. Parks and schools, I see a lot of actually reaching out to the schools and getting in contact with them. Getting, let's see, more things about school gardens, playgrounds. I see several playgrounds and community garden ones here. And increasing safety at schools. And then everything else. This is lots of, we have some things about solar. I think I see at least 2 on solar, that's fun. Educating neighbors on how to advocate, as well as better communication with city and county, that really goes together. The emergency preparedness net training, we've talked about many times, more speed bumps, BD signage, recruiting businesses for economic development, painting and cleaning pretty here to update the community center. So we have lots of cool things here. I see a lot of repeating themes, and I don't see anything that we haven't talked about before. So I think that we're on a really good page here. Is there anything that anyone wants to say about these before we kind of move on to the next portion of our meeting? Any thoughts? Yes, they're great. So what will happen now from here is you can still continue adding ideas throughout the night, and then at the end of the night we'll take them and we'll write them all down and kind of distill them into a work plan to be presented next month. Yes, Stephanie.
Who is this we that we're?
Members of the board.
No, I'll be glad to.
The board members and community members that are interested are welcome to help us do that, and we'll come up with a meeting time for that. All right.
We're at 7:57.
Awesome. Is there anything else before I close this portion of the meeting out to give us all a little break? All right. Esther.
Can I do my update really quick?
I updated about beautification, anticipation date, cans and bottles, and
Well, then I wasn't needed.
access was, well, access moved, but I was very brief, so if you have more beyond that.
Well, hi everybody. I am Esther Carl Duncan. I am June 30th, the former PTA president of Lane Middle School, and hopefully they will have somebody to fill my footsteps. Chelsea apparently has filled you in on everything, and tonight was the first commencement promotion ceremony that they've had in the evening, and they had it at Franklin High School for the students, and it was amazing how many of the 8th grade class actually had 3.5 or higher grade point averages for the entire 8th grade school year. So there is hope that our future will have higher graduation rates than they have had in the past. And I want everybody to continue to support Lane, and I know that that is going to be something that I'm still going to do, but Lane needs all the support that we can give her. If by any chance, you're bored and you have an inkling to play in the dirt, go over to Lane and pull some weeds. There's a pile of bark dust that can be spread. There's things that we could do for Lane on the outside of the building. We don't have to go on the inside. And, just keep supporting our local elementaries and our middle school, and support our kids and encourage them to be better people, because tonight I actually saw 160 8th graders who are our future, and they're doing amazing things. And I want to say well over a third of them were the 3.5 or better. So.
And I want a round of applause for Esther, who has worked
Yes.
tirelessly. You guys after work and waters the plants. She drags bark, bucket by bucket, and fills in around the trees. She replants plants when they're ripped out and stolen from the school. Esther has been keeping that school alive for the last 2 years, year and a half.
Well, 3, and then I had 5 children go through Lane for the last 15 years.
And Esther went through Lane herself, so big, big, big Esther. And on that note, we're going to take a small break, and we'll be back for our second half. Thank you, everybody. All right, we're going to come back a little bit early, by a few minutes. But we've got so much to cover in our second half. Beyond what's already on our agenda, I want to address a couple of things. First, I forgot to let you guys know that we did pick a time and route, or at least a time for the 4th of July parade. It's going to be from 10 to 1. So at 10, we'll meet at the Lane parking lot. I've reserved the parking lots for us to decorate bikes and scooters, and we're going to do our standard all ages and ability on foot, not technically on the street parade at 11. And then after the parade, we have the community center here rented, and we can use both the parking lot and out here. And we're going to have some games. We have someone who will do face painting. We'll have snacks and things like that. So anybody who wants to help with that, we would love it. If you would like to donate to that, we would love that too. See me after the meeting if you want to help out with that.
So Chelsea, did I see on next door that the Moose Lodge is also doing an event on the 4th of July? Do we have competing events in the neighborhood?
I don't know. I have not heard that. I do know that the Moose Lodge was going to be asked if they wanted to participate or support in some way, so I don't know if that's coordinated, but we can look into that. We'll have to ask Dunya Markham. She's our Moose Lodge liaison, kind of. And then Meg does not have time on the agenda because she wasn't going to be here, but she did want, I'm going to cede some of my time at the end. She has a letter she would like to propose that we write as a board, and that went out to the board earlier. But speaking of requests for letters, we are going to have Stephanie do her request for support for 82nd Avenue.
Okay, so let me pass this out. This is for board members to take, but share with your non-board member neighbors, please. A copy of a resolution. Okay, so we have been requested by several people, including Brian Wong of the 82nd Avenue Improvement Coalition, to write a letter of support for what he is proposing to various electeds, including the mayor and the head of PBOT, whoever that's going to be, and to the manager of whatever our district, ODOT district is here. I'm going to read the resolution, and while you take a look at it, and I'm hoping that the board will agree to adopt this, because 82nd Avenue has been severely neglected and poorly maintained. It is one of the most dangerous roads in the state of Oregon. Portlanders deserve safe streets on which to walk, bike, operate mobility devices, access transit, and drive. Believing that the city of Portland will improve safety and mobility on 82nd Avenue, which forms the eastern boundary of our neighborhood, the Board of the Brentwood-Darlington Neighborhood Association hereby requests that jurisdiction over 82nd Avenue be transferred from the Oregon Department of Transportation to the City of Portland before ODOT spends funds to make improvements that are not aligned with the visions of the City of Portland and of the communities bordering 82nd Avenue. So ODOT views 82nd Avenue as something it doesn't have to maintain and is just for car throughput. And so apparently ODOT has set aside some money to make some improvements that are for car throughput and will have very little in the way of actual maintenance or improvement of the roadway, and certainly no safety or
Have you seen all the sidewalk improvements in Clackamas on 82nd? No.
At the different corners?
Yeah. They've done sidewalk improvements, and they've done access ADA corners on
Big white
in Clackamas,
aprons,
so
yeah,
it's-
for a wheelchair.
So
Yeah.
in our neighborhood, the only improvements they are doing is the signal light project. They did the one at Duke and the one at Flavel is the next one, but those are the only upcoming projects in our section.
Is that right? Okay,
We want
so,
sidewalks too.
But
Right, I
there are no
didn't
others
ask-
that I know of scheduled.
okay, I didn't inquire into exactly what kinds of improvements. I took Brian Wong's word for it, that the improvements would not be in keeping with the kinds of visions that the city of Portland has for its neighborhoods.
There's an open discussion opportunity for
Yes,
this
absolutely.
resolution. That'd be wonderful. I'm a little bit aware of a political choice that is expressed in this policy, so I'm going to just share what I understand from conversations with Mark Lear at the Portland Bureau of Transportation, who's someone who's very interested in the jurisdictional transfer of 82nd from the state to the city. I think there are two willing parties to the deal. It's both the state and the city. They both would like to make this change. The chief disagreement between them remains the cost of bringing 82nd up to a standard that the city would consider acceptable from a safety perspective prior to the transfer of ownership. Inherent in this policy proposal is the notion that the city would assume responsibility for 82nd before it has been brought up to code. And it's correct, Brian Wong and others are correct, that the state has not chosen to make the kind of safety investments that would turn 82nd into a safe place to walk or ride bikes. It really does function as a highway. But the rubbing point has been around the revenue.
$2 billion, yes.
We have an example in the House Bill 2017, which was state legislation that passed last year, that included $180 million of dedicated funding for the upgrades to Powell Boulevard, which is on a sort of schedule for safety improvements that will allow it to transfer from the state to the city. And I would recommend that we strongly consider what options might exist for winning that funding prior to the transfer, because this kind of a statement puts a burden on the city that we may not intend to burden them with,
Oh, that's interesting.
while
Okay.
we are actually wanting to create the same kind of outcomes that Brian Wong wants to do. So I just want to flag for folks, the choice that's in here is about the timing of the revenue, and that's the chief disagreement between the city and the state.
Well, so is there a way to reword this, or should we just forget about it for the time being, or what do you recommend?
I would love to work with you on this policy proposal and bring it back next month, and we could sit down with Mark Lear
That
at
would
the
be
city.
fabulous.
in
I would
between
welcome
now
that, because I don't know enough. I'm taking the word of other people who are knowledgeable about it. And
There's
I
a
would love.
whole pile of worms underneath this letter.
Okay.
That's right. And Brian's next meeting on this subject is scheduled for the evening of Monday, June 18th, and so I'll be joining him out on 82nd Avenue for a conversation with a few key advocates to learn a little bit more about his position. Again, I think it's something very worthy of support, but it's all about when we get the funding to make the improvements.
Have you attended the meetings for the Improvement Coalition yet?
I have not before.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I did for a little while, and they have really good ideas, and it's like a massively encouraging think tank of people over there. But it's the money thing, you are so right on. And you're basically asking to have the city shoulder what is $2 billion worth of money to bring it up to an acceptable level for transfer. And they keep hemming and hawing about it back and forth. And Portland just has to ask itself, at what point is it just worth it for us to take it and just, you know, essentially saddle ourselves with an extra huge chunk of debt. I'd love to see 82nd be, you know, managed locally. I think it's only practical at this point because it's not, you know, by definition, by its practical use, it doesn't fit, you know, what it's laid out and what it's funded to be any longer. It's outgrown itself. So yes, I think that's an awesome idea. And I know I'm not a voting member, but I fully support what Garrett's saying.
Okay, so do I, because it adds knowledge that I didn't have, and Garrett will help me, or together we'll formulate a new approach to this, and then it'll be better.
So it looks like we have the skeleton of something that we're going to be working on and talking about more next month.
Yeah, this is
We
exciting.
also
Thank you
I'm
very much.
sure we can bring this back in a,
Mhm.
you know, an intelligent way just next month.
Include something
Yeah.
with Clackamas County, because you're not gonna go down 82nd to Fred Meyer's and expand, you have a whole different system, which is what we have right now.
I'm sure we could talk a little bit more about the ADA lawsuit that the state just lost from Oregon Walks that is probably funding some of
Which
these
is
projects.
probably why they're getting all the new sidewalks and access.
And those accesses south, Fred Martin south, you bring them up like where, at Luther or anywhere this direction, the sidewalks aren't wide enough to get down, to get to the corner to go.
It's terrible.
They're not.
Yeah, you cannot push a stroller down that section of 82nd in any way.
You can't walk from here to
Okay.
Fred Meyer's.
I have a question about
Yes.
this quick. Is it possible for the city to take on piecemeal, to recognize those parts of 82nd which are most ripe for development? And they, take like the block between, say, like Foster, and, the area right around there, and then develop that, get development in, use to get the SDC funds, those assistant development charges, use that to then, hopefully it'll pay for itself, and then kind of, keep moving down the street, I don't know, is there any reason that we have to have the entire street transferred, if anybody knows, or?
Fascinatingly, the city of Portland already owns some small sections of the right-of-way on 82nd, but it doesn't significantly change the management of the facility because it's managed by ODOT, even though the city is in ownership, so.
And the problem
yes.
is the road bed, like what's underneath everything that we keep rebuilding and keeps collapsing in on itself. That's what the rub is. It has, everything that's on top of it has to be basically scraped clean and rebuilt, and that costs a lot.
82nd's been on a maintenance only for probably about a decade.
But even that, they're kind of neglecting it. I feel politically, as I drive down it on my SUV, that they're kind of like, it seems like they're trying to okay, let's see what little we can do to maintain this, basically.
I can tell you that 2 years ago, I spent $2,000 repairing my car after hitting a pothole on 82nd at under 30 miles an hour. So it is definitely a safety issue. Question on my mind is why can't Portland and ODOT work together on this project and pool their funds to bring it up to code before transferring the jurisdiction?
That would be awesome.
So just something, another thing we could think about, although they probably have, is, could ODOT invest, say, half of their funds to bring the road bed up for the highway portion of it, and Portland invest the other half of doing sidewalks and ramps and things like that, and then transferring it over, so it's not
That's a great thought, but it took a
my money
special
versus
session
your
to
money.
get the city of Portland Powell.
It's still a great idea.
It's a great idea. In my experience, those two agencies don't always bring their best behavior to the table when they work with one another, and they certainly argue in very heated terms about how much money, from where, and for what. And the other sort of challenge here is that there is a fundamental disagreement between the way the city and the way the state manage their roadways. So if they were going to spend money jointly, they would still then argue about which design standards they use to apply to the street. So I think it is, at least I will declare, in my interest in seeing increased, sidewalks and bike lanes and, safer transit stops and better access for people who are, not driving a car. It's in our interest, it's in my interest to see the city on the street. It's just a matter of how we get there and how we fund it, and they don't tend to work well together.
Okay, thank you so much. That's fabulous.
So we'll look
This is
forward to
really exciting.
hearing about
So
that
we'll
in
postpone
next
this
month.
to July.
Excellent.
And we'll come
I'll
back
put
with
you on the
something
agenda next month.
that's better.
And that's going to lead us right into land use and transportation. So Stephanie, do you have anything else for transportation before we move forward?
Oh my gosh, there's so much going on tonight, I can't remember. Hold on just 1 second. Okay, so I reported on trying to trying to find out what the status of 72nd and Duke, and getting nowhere, but I'm building up our case to take to the city council if necessary. We talked about 82nd, we talked about Portland Southeast in active motion. So I think that's it for the moment on the transportation.
What would you like to see done on 72nd and Duke?
Well, we're getting so many accidents now,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm looking back through the historical record back to 2006 to 2015. I found there were 3 incidents. I told you one, but depending on how you read the map. But anyway, 3. But in the last few months, between now and last October, there are like 7 just in a few months, as opposed to 3 in 9 years. So I've been trying to get more data on how many, but we need some kind of analysis of the signals and the.
And a
the
traffic
lanes
engineer, so a
and-
traffic engineer was assigned to it, and I have his name, but I have not been able to get him to answer any emails or phone calls to tell us what his analysis showed. So I will pass that information to you, Stephanie.
Thank you, okay.
And you can continue pursuing him. As we know, persistence is often our only avenue.
Because that's my nearest intersection.
And I know that within the last few months, at least one cyclist was hit and injured severely, and a pedestrian, just from neighborhood boards. So anything land use, Patrick, that we need to talk
There is one
about?
land use, it's in the very early stages for a small, it sounds like a townhome complex over by 76th and Flavel. I think they're in the pre-application conference stage. I don't know what the results of that are, so I have to go dig that up and prepare that for our next, if that's an issue, we should have our land use meeting on the third Tuesday of this month and try to get the developer, see if they're actually going to go through with it. They may be requesting a zoning change to one of the zones, so that would probably kill their project, so I'm not sure if they're just stuck there. So I gotta go find out the status on that at BDS.
Is it
Where
a
is it?
zoning change that may have updated with the comp plan?
No, it looks like they may ask for an additional zoning change. Most of it's R2 and it's a few zones, and there's one zone I believe is R2.5, and they want to change that to R2 as well. So if they need that for their plan, getting a zoning change of that nature after the comp plan is actually kind of difficult and costly and risky even. So I don't know if that is what's causing why the process seems kind of slow on this one. But I have to inquire and see what their status is.
And where is this?
This is at 76th and Flavel, right near the park there.
Flavel Drive?
Oh, Flavel and Street.
Okay. So the next land use meeting is the 19th of this month.
That sounds like
It's
it
the third
would be.
Tuesday, yeah. Location to be determined. If you would like to have it here, let me know, and I'll help you get the community center rented. And all committees, if you would like to have your meeting on the third Tuesday of the month, we could just regularly rent out the community center for that purpose.
I like the idea of having it in a quiet place. 'Cause it's hard
So
to hear.
amongst yourselves, figure out a third Tuesday's work and let me know, and I will check with Russell and see if we can have it on an ongoing basis.
But the other argument is that we support local businesses if we have it at a club.
So we could purchase refreshments from local businesses. Anything else for land use and transportation? Okay. Now we need to review and approve minutes. And Patrick was amazing and sent them out. So board members, did board members have a chance to read through them? I'm going to admit I did not, so I'm going to abstain from voting today. I know I'm terrible. But, so do you have a copy of them on you, Patrick? Okay. Board members, were there any changes to the minutes that you were sent out for approval? Okay.
So you're over them, good?
So would anyone like to motion to approve the outstanding minutes? Patrick, can you tell us what months those are?
That's for the 2018, to bring this up to date.
Okay.
Just a minute, there might be some that have already been approved, let's just approve them all.
Okay. So do I have any motions?
Okay, so wait a minute. I think- Okay, so I just said like April minutes. So you're just saying let's just blanket approve 2018 minutes?
So we sent out a link that had all of the unapproved minutes of 2018 in it for review.
Okay, so did it have September and April?
Yeah, it's
So I
like
took the
5
minutes then.
months.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a member prior to last month.
Right.
So
So you
I-
can abstain from voting if you would like.
Okay.
You read them.
I read them, but I didn't show up, so I don't know how accurate they are,
Okay.
to be honest.
They're not,
Pam, did
there's
you
not,
write
there's
that
not too
down?
much to,
Board members,
There's
how
not
many
much-
of you read the minutes that went out?
just say yes, there's not much controversy there.
And quorum read the minutes, so would somebody who read the minutes like to motion to approve them?
I read the minutes, they look good to me, I move that we approve them as
A second.
submitted.
All right, so we have a motion on the table to approve the unapproved minutes of 2018 as sent out by Patrick for review to board members, seconded by Rob. All in favor? Keep your hands up for Stephanie.
Oh, wait, for Stephanie, right, I should count.
That's you.
1, 2, 3, okay, now, how many?
See, I should
We
have
have
brought coffee.
9 for. All opposed? No opposing, all abstaining? And we've got 4 abstainers. And motion passes, minutes are approved.
Sweet.
Lynn, you can now open the bank account, maybe.
I'm beyond that now.
So, for those of you who don't know, we have been trying to change banks, and the rules for opening bank accounts have changed since the last time we opened a bank account. So we closed our account and went to open it, and were unable to. So we are still working on that, and hopefully we will have a working bank account very, very soon. This was one of the pieces that we had to get done. So thank you, Lynn, for continuing to work through that. Eventually you'll get to give us a treasurer's report. We're going to go ahead. Anything else for Secretary Patrick? So Patrick can now officially pass Secretary over to Stephanie. Minutes from your term are approved. Thank you, Patrick, for being our Secretary for so long.
Right.
Thanks a lot.
Yay, Patrick. And yay, Stephanie, for taking it on now. All right, so we're going to tap over to Paul, who we haven't seen in a little bit, but he's joining us. Paul is not currently a board member, but is going to remain as our Southeast Uplift liaison, because you do not have to be a board member to do that. And since he may be leaving our neighborhood, we're going to keep him as our Southeast Uplift liaison as long as possible. So, go ahead.
All right, so I apologize, I've been gone so much lately and kind of fell off the planet. I do have some updates from Southeast Uplift. One of the main ones is that they recently rewrote their mission statement because it was long, confusing, and convoluted, so that got done. The main reason why that's actually cool is they are trying to align themselves with the now renamed Office of Neighborhood Involvement, now called the OCCL, which sounds like an anagram for the OLCC, but it's not the same thing.
It was Office of Neighborhood Involvement.
It used to be the Office of Neighborhood Involvement.
That's the awful.
And now it's the OCCL, which is now the Office of Civic and Community Life. And I'll let you know when I can figure out what that really means. But they've come out with a new series of goals that are much more aligned with kind of a large city or organization and less about the involvement of smaller neighborhoods, and are looking for more involvement from the coalitions like Southeast Uplift. And the reason that pertains to us is they're kind of holding a lot of the funding that they provide those neighborhood coalitions kind of hostage for that. So it's a little tense at Southeast Uplift in that they're trying to be true to their mission and neighborhood associations while fulfilling the requirements of their grant from the city. So that's why they've been revisiting a lot of their goals and organizational efforts to kind of walk that line. So that's something that's been a little bit tense.
So that's bad news for
It's not
individual?
bad news,
Oh.
it's just kind of the way the seas are shifting. It's happened a couple of times throughout the city's history where it's gone more neighborhood and inclusive, and then some of the city council will have kind of changed tune or asked for certain financial oversight over it because they don't know what this board is doing and that kind of thing. So it's just, things are changing. They'll probably change again because everybody's going to change office in November, and we'll see what happens.
Different color for it.
Right, exactly. This might not matter in 4 months, so we'll find out. Other thing that's been going on at Southeast Uplift is the 82nd Avenue Improvement Coalition came and spoke with us as well. There was a great deal of discussion about the disparity between things that you've identified, like Powell and ODOT and FEMA. So that they did ultimately decide to do kind of what we're doing, and that's sign a modified letter saying that they're in favor of that transfer occurring, and we're going to be part of the discussion to see that it happens in the best overall way, etc. So that's exciting. I'm glad we came up with the same conclusion.
Maybe you could advise Stephanie and Garrett on that, or give them a copy of that letter.
It has not yet been written,
Okay.
but
Okay, so what I had heard was that SEUL supported the letter on which I based my presentation.
they supported the ultimate goal of the letter. The terms of their support, I am not yet completely sure.
I see,
So
okay.
I will find out.
We're all in the same
Terry
boat.
Dublinsky Milton was the guy tasked with writing that letter, so I will find out from him what's going on.
Okay, and Garrett, you know.
Great.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll send it to the board and dispense with that also. Recently, Southeast Uplands was also asked to support an organization called One Oregon. It has a website that you can read about, and it's...
Could you speak just a little?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
I'm
can't
sorry. Southeast Uplands was asked to support an organization called One Oregon. They are a group of people advocating for organizations going... I had this memorized and I forgot. Inclusion of various social groups, people from different countries, different ways of life, all sorts of those types of things, and efforts to kind of unify under one voice. And so it's something that a lot of neighborhood associations are being asked to look at as well. I'll send you their website, and it's something maybe we can talk about at our next meeting.
Can you send that to Meg as well?
Sure.
She'd be very interested in that.
Absolutely. Yeah, she would love that. And then one last thing that's going on is Montevilla is hosting a housing and homelessness educational forum on June 30th from 11 to 2. It's kind of long. At 103rd and Gleason. The address is 10301 Northeast Gleason Street. And I'll send the flyer that I have to the board as well.
And we'll put it up on the site.
Absolutely. They really want people from the board and boards of various neighborhood associations to show up. Space is fairly limited, so that's something that they are concerned about. The goal of it is to have multiple table discussions and kind of an interactive way of coming up with solutions for homelessness, getting some of the various agencies involved. It's very similar to, what was the thing we were doing? Some of the other open community and contributive methods of solving some of these problems that have been going on the last few months.
There was one recently in Foster or Mount Scott.
It was at the Mount Scott Community Center between
And they did
Mount Scott
a
and
conversation around homelessness.
Yeah, it's very similar to that.
Homelessness.
And they've got a couple of guest speakers that they're getting to facilitate the event, so it's rather exciting.
Do you know who those speakers are?
I don't. I'll have to read the flyer.
Anything else?
Lots of little things, but those are the big ones.
Awesome. All right. Garrett, you have a question?
Will we have an opportunity to sign up with the One Oregon Coalition as well?
We do. In fact, there's an easy way upon the website for us or other community groups to get involved if they'd like to. They're accepting applications, or they're interested in pursuing anyone, be it a business or a community event. So
Would they be interested in maybe coming and speaking at our next meeting?
I would not. It would be worth. I'm sure they would be interested in coming to a future meeting. Definitely.
Okay, so we'll look into that, maybe having them come to a future meeting. All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Let me see if I
I
can
know
find
we're getting late. We're starting to just get to the nodding stage.
Yeah, it is.
Anything else?
Not at this time.
Okay, so since we're running a couple minutes ahead, I totally forgot to give Pam some time for Narrow Heights update. And while she gets her notes, she sent me a grant opportunity that we want to look into maybe. NEA Our Town Grants, a National Endowment for Arts Creative Placemaking Grants Program, ranging from $25,000 to $200,000. Looks like matching grants. So the deadline for that is July 19th. If you are interested in knowing more about that, I will send you the email, but it's definitely something we should maybe look into. Pam, what do you think was there a specific project that you had in mind for that grant?
No, I just suggested that since we have the artistic darlings within Brentwood Darlington, that we forward that information to them and perhaps, look for someone who would champion it. Yes.
Their leader didn't move eventually, but we'll see what we can do. I'll see who we can find. Okay, go ahead. Report on Arrow Heights, please.
Okay, so I think when Commissioner Fritz was here a few months ago, she mentioned that the city had allocated $5.3 million to start the build-out of the master plan for the Arrow Heights Nature Park. which the master plan was done in 2005, so here we are. And in April, the Parks Department put out a request for applications to those who want to serve on the Citizens Advisory Committee for this build-out. And so I put in an application, I was accepted, and the first meeting was last month, May 22nd, and it was pretty much, meet and greet, introduce yourself, and so there were representatives not only from Brentwood, Darlington, but Woodstock and Lens, Johnson Creek Watershed Council, and some people who lived immediately around the park. And what I didn't realize is that all meetings of the Citizens Advisory Committee will be public meetings, which I think is a very good thing. And so there were some general community members, in particular people involved in the community garden that's being moved under the master plan, were there voicing their concerns. So the next meeting is scheduled for June 20th, and I had suggested that for each meeting, the Parks Department is going to write up the minutes, and then I'll forward it so they can be posted. But anyone who's interested in listening or providing input, it will be Wednesday, June 20th, at a location to be determined. So as soon as I hear, I will.
What time will that be?
It's usually about 6 o'clock, like 6 to 9 time frame.
It may be here. I know they're looking at the building, but it was booked up, so they're looking for other places in the neighborhood. So
the first meeting was at Smile, so
that's good to know. I know they're trying to find something in the neighborhood for one of the Arrow Heights meetings coming up. I'm not sure if it's parks or streets. So.
And the only other thing I think that was particularly noteworthy was of the 5.3 million, apparently 1.2 is already earmarked for like sidewalks in that area, providing access to the park. So there's a shortfall in funding as far as building out all of the 2005 master plan, and so I just suggested that they look for other funding, matching opportunities like Precision Cast Parts that sits across the street from the nature park that probably owes the neighborhood big time. So whether anything comes of that or not, I did go on record with that statement.
Good move. Okay.
So I'll keep you advised.
Thank you much.
Let me know where the meeting is.
As soon as I know.
Yeah, when Pam has that information, we'll post it on the site and social media. So, excellent. Okay. Derek, neighborhood outreach?
So pretty much, we got a list was kind of delayed, and that was pointed out to me, Pam. And so we've got, I think, we've got 18 new neighbors for last month, and I think Tina volunteered to knock on our
Talk with Pam and see how much she wants me to do. I'll do as much
And
as
then
you
also,
want. That's great.
yeah, and I'm doing a mailing. We have the new insert now to go into the brochures with our events that are going on this summer. The other thing is the magnets, and I think I sent that out to board members for you to review. And I'm hoping just to recap is like 250 for the magnets that have our neighborhood association info for like 8750, 500 for 150, and then 1,000 for 250.
For community members, the magnets are our logo and they say upcoming meetings and they're about a business card size.
Yeah, and I'm hoping, I don't know, maybe we could get maybe 500.
What, how much is 500?
500 is only 150 plus the $15 setup fee.
So, would anyone like to make a motion to approve those?
So basically the 250 is 35 cents each, 500 is 30 cents
I
each.
did it for you for 14 cents each.
Okay.
Just saying.
Well,
It takes some money.
Okay. Well, let's do that then. Because we don't have a refrigerator magnet right now. I was just at the farmer's market at Woodstock and they were handing them out to me. I didn't even ask for them.
I think it's $15.
Okay.
But I can find out.
So do we want to make a motion to approve up to the 165 and then choose a vendor based on?
Yeah. Well,
Maybe ask for a sample from each of them just so we can get quality.
Aren't we supposed to do 3 bids? So,
Up to 3 bids.
so we'll get our 2 bids and, okay. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve these?
I think magnets are a great idea.
Well, we should have had these a lot sooner. So, but yeah,
So Derek, this is your project. Would you like a motion to approve this fund?
yeah, well, let's go get some refrigerator magnets, so.
Okay, so Derek's motioning to approve.
I second it.
Refrigerator magnets, okay. So a motion is on the table to approve refrigerator magnets up to the 165 that Derek has quoted there, seconded by Tina. Do we have any discussion?
We are going to go get the 2 different bids on it, or?
Yes, yes. Gail's going to do a bid. We have a bid from Oregon Business Forms, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor of approving magnets? Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All opposed? All abstaining? Motion passes. You get magnets, Derek.
Oh,
Will you
great.
work with Gail on that?
Sure, well,
Excellent.
can you send me whatever,
You two get that figured out. We'll see
But-
magnets next meeting.
but can you talk to them, or how does this work?
Oh, it's their design.
Yeah, well, see, the design we have, that's something created by Oregon Business Forms, that's, yeah.
So-
Do you want
who's-
to do our business card? Do you want to
So-
do,
Yeah.
that's
Well-
what Woodstock says, it's just their business card. Like, limited
So we've
information.
approved these funds, so why don't we go ahead and order these, and then we'll order our next batch
Yeah.
here, and then we can see which ones we like, and we can maybe order our next batch with different logos.
I think
Does that
that'd be a
seem
good
fine?
idea, because also, we'll probably go through these, and I think it'd be interesting to see if they
Especially given
are.
the amount of these
Yep.
are.
Yeah, because I'm thinking we'll go through them, but I think part of it is we'll just see how do they work, because some magnets I saw that they're not strong enough. Like I pick these up all the time on my refrigerator, and some of them you can put the cardstock on, it'll stick to the refrigerator.
Woodstock has good magnets.
Yeah, they do. I've been, obsessed with that for a while. Hopefully I'll get over it. But anyway,
It's okay, I'm obsessed with Foster Pals bags, it's okay.
yeah, but anyways,
That's page 79.
so I'll go ahead and order, what?
Yeah, go ahead and order, you're gonna order the 500 for the 150 plus $15 setup fee,
Right.
and
Then I'll grab the catalog
Yeah.
and
And
start talking with them
we can-
about.
I think that we should definitely have some bids for some other swag, so
Okay.
let's talk about bids for additional swag
I should have brought my box.
upcoming.
The
So,
next
okay.
meeting maybe, yeah. Okay.
Anything else for neighborhood outreach?
I think that's pretty much it. I can't think of anything. Anyone else want to,
Okay,
Jim? Okay, chime in.
all right.
Well, on the subject of neighborhood outreach, Rachel here and I and Tina have been talking about some exciting ideas about actually engaging neighbors face to face, perhaps talking with them with a little questionnaire, what's on your mind, what can we take back to the neighborhood meeting for discussion. And so maybe we can organize and possibly have some events that pull in neighbors, that they actually contribute to and participate in, like potluck in the park and so on. So Rachel and I are we're going to talk about these things some more and maybe come back with a proposal.
Wonderful. I see that is listed in some of our work plan ideas too, so maybe we can coordinate that into our work plan of.
That's the source. We're the source of that.
Well, excellent. All right. Anything else there? All right, now you guys unfortunately have to listen to me talk for a few minutes. So there has been a lot of really interesting things happening with Lane Middle School. As many of you know, PPS voted very, very quickly to co-locate the middle school portion of access to Lane. That decision was made with less than 24 hours notice that there would be a meeting and less than 6 hours notice that there would be a vote. And the middle school principal wasn't even aware she was that she could speak, and so she wasn't able to testify. So that has obviously resulted in a lot of interesting feelings in the neighborhood. I did attend the Lane PTA board meeting this week, and a parent and student from Access attended. They're very nice. They unfortunately have been through this 2 other times, and commented that it is PPS's MO to send it out at 4:40 before a break, and then
That's part of their culture.
So to that end, Meg sent out, she sent it out to the board, but a proposal to consider writing a letter to PPS regarding their behavior and communication and treatment of not just our neighborhood, but all of the students. So she has here, she'd like to propose a letter of concern, and there's, I'm going to read her brief review on the background on this issue for the community members here. So the first one is, PPS is widely understood to have seriously mismanaged the attempted relocation of the Access program for the past year, leading to the hasty decision last week to oust the crucially important Head Start program that serves many of our low-income and otherwise marginalized community members, dependent on its current location at Lane. So for those of you who don't know, moving Access to Lane means that it will lose its Head Start program, which is 4 classrooms worth. There's talk that they'll give priority at Kelly, but it still reduces the overall amount of free and affordable preschool in our neighborhood significantly. And moving kids to Kelly will mean that parents who don't drive will self-select out of early education for their children. And it also lowers the amount of early education for the entire region. Not just us, but Lentz uses our Head Start, Mount Scott uses our Head Starts. Depending on where you live, you come to a Brentwood-Darlington Head Start, and we are now losing 4 classrooms worth.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's the first point. The second point she has is PPS Board of Education very likely violated its bylaws by giving insufficient notice of its intention to conduct the vote held at its May 30th meeting regarding this decision, effectively preventing parents, staff, students, and community members from attending to voice their concerns. By holding the vote on improperly short notice and at a time of day, afternoon rather than evening, when stakeholders were in school, working, or simply unaware of what was transpiring, the board demonstrated disrespect to multiple communities. So the teachers who wanted to attend were unable to get substitutes because they found out about it at 11:45, the day of the meeting. The third point she has is PPS exhibited extremely poor communication with Lane administration and staff, as well as Access staff, which created the unnecessarily stressful and inequitable situation we are now in. A great deal of confusion about the many steps needing to be taken to co-locate 2 schools at one site. Parents with many and deep concerns about the coordination of services, like curriculum, safety issues, and others, and an untenable situation for the Head Start parents who must now seek alternatives for their preschoolers. So the main goal of the letter would be to share our concerns for the way this decision was made and talk about the disregard and disrespect with which the Board of Education treated the communities in question. So Meg would like to, this is her paper motion, she'd like to write this letter with input from the board, especially the Schools and Parks Committee, to send this letter to PPS, the school board, and even possibly media outlets, making it a publicly facing letter where, we've accepted that Access is coming, we're welcoming them with open arms, but the way that they made that decision was not okay. And it needs to be addressed because it continues to happen. So, would someone like to motion to approve Meg's letter?
I move we approve Meg's letter.
And on hers, she said that she would write it with input and send it out within a week for review before it goes on. So, do we have a second for that? Shannon seconds? All right, so a motion is on the table to approve a letter to PPS and the other entities regarding this behavior, seconded by Shannon. All in favor? 12? 12 in favor, all opposed, all abstaining, motion passes. Garrett?
Can I ask one quick?
Absolutely.
Is the Head Start program centered in Lane currently?
Yes.
Okay, but it's not a middle school program? It's-
No.
It's the Head Start program,
There
it just
are
happens to
4
be in.
classrooms on one side of Lane. You know where there's a little playground around the side? That playground was actually put in for the Head Start and is the only playground on that property. And the 4 classrooms that are on the end there have been Head Start classrooms for several years.
Thank you.
Quite a while, yeah.
There are about 550 students at Lane, and they're bringing in just over 150 access students. So Lane's student population will go up to 690, and the PPS is requesting about 10 classrooms, which is slightly around a third of the available
So how
classrooms.
many Head Start students are being displaced by this?
4 classes with probably an average of 20 kids each, so around 80 Head Start students. And the Head Start program at Lane is,
You're allowed over 16 per class?
I believe there are 2 teachers per class. My son's elementary has 18 with 2 teachers.
But that's Head Start is preschool, that's a hired adult student. rate.
I don't have an actual count, but that would be my best estimate, is that,
Between 50 and 80.
yeah. But it's, that program only has a couple of non-income related spots. Otherwise, it is entirely for low-income families.
Right.
So that's who it's going to hurt the most.
Well, yeah.
So, yeah, but it's 50 to 80 is a good estimate. I'm not exactly sure, and I know they do some whole-day project programs and some half-days, so it could even be more.
So the Head Start program is leaving Lane?
Yes.
So that means there's going to be a dedicated playground for students that are no longer there?
Correct.
And so they'll just use the lack of a Head Start program to leave it vandalized and dead?
I don't know what the plan is with that, neither did the principal. She's been very blindsided by this, obviously. I do know that, not because of access, that we are also losing our Lane County Health Center there, which is going to significantly impact people in our neighborhood, as it is the only health clinic in our neighborhood other than one naturopath. So they're moving health clinics only to the high schools. So now if you use that as a health clinic, you will have to go to Franklin. So, yes. On that same kind of theme of access and PPS, there are some upcoming meetings if you want to squeak your wheel about anything with the district. The Board Finance Audit and Operations Committee meeting is next Tuesday, the 12th, from 3 to 5. The District Board meeting follows that at 6. And then the Enrollment and Forecasting Committee meets Thursday, June 14th, from 3 to 5. And I can post those online as well. But if you are not thrilled with this, join our Schools and Parks Committee and go to meetings and be loud.
That's awesome.
So, let's see, let me check my list and make sure that I have not missed anything. Awesome. The very last thing tonight, I'm so excited, it's something that we can all agree on is exciting, maybe, is our cleanup report. Yay! We had a great cleanup.
Yes, we did.
We made money?
Yep, and I'm gonna talk fast because we're 4 minutes out. So you can, board members, take one, pass it on, share with your non-board member neighbor. So this is something new I'm trying. I don't expect board members to also do it, but it helps me keep my brain lined up. It's an event report. And the important things that you'll want to see is page 2 and 3. We had about a dozen volunteers. We had 96 loads come in before our bins were full. We filled up before noon. We had 15 email signups from our receipts, which is still great. And then there's a link there, board members, if you want to see pictures that was awesome to post. And I'll try to get them up on our site with a copy of the report. Then there's the section on costs, and I want to make here my additional notes that we took payments using Square this time. We took about $450 via card, which is exciting. That did cost us $20 in a card fee, but was worth it because many people didn't have enough cash, and so they wouldn't have paid the full fee anyway. But this is definitely a neighborhood service. So if these costs were not reimbursable, we would have taken a $1,300, almost $1,400 hit by having this event. So this event cost a total of $3,196.36. That is the hauling fee, the media, the volunteer snacks, everything. But because that $3,000 is reimbursable through the Metro Cleanup Program, we are actually getting a net gain of $1,811 from our cleanup fees. So that is money that'll go to things like movies in the park and Spectacular and National Night Out and all of those fun things. And then if you care, which I do, but probably nobody else does, of how people heard about the cleanup, there's a little graph on the bottom, and I have a color copy if you want to see what the colors are. But I thought it would be really interesting to know that for next year so we can see where to best spend our money to advertise this event.
Oh boy, let's hear it for signs.
Yep, the signs were the biggest one.
We need to do more of that didn't say.
And they just didn't mark off anything. So the other question to kind of put in your head to think about is we have the option of having a fall cleanup if we would like to host one. Things to do, remember for next time, we can have more than a fixed number of bins. We can have as many bins as we can fill in that time period if we arrange it properly. We can work with Resource Recovery Systems again. They were wonderful and they are definitely interested in a fall cleanup. They would just depend on availability. And I think that we got our procedures pretty well down with how we were running traffic through that parking lot. So if that's something the board is interested in, I would be willing to help with the legwork of that again. And we can reuse a ton of stuff that we used for our spring cleanup. So if that's something you guys want to do, let us know.
We talked about that at Southeast Uplift. Most of the neighborhoods saw an average of about $800. Brooklyn was the next biggest with $1,700. So we blew them out of the water.
And we filled up before noon. We had to turn people away and send them to Mount Scott for an hour, 2 hours.
And that's the only reason they got $900.
So, yeah, we sent people to them clear up until like 2 o'clock.
Either that or we just have more chum.
All these things are true. Yeah, not mutually.
We didn't have a cleanup last year, so there was a lot of.
Yes, we did not.
Last time we did, we got like $3 grand.
Pent up demand.
So, but,
So when would we have to motion and approve and say we're gonna do it?
if you guys want to have a cleanup, you can make the motion and approve it tonight, and then we can decide on our dates based on when the parking lot is available for rent and Resource Recovery
What
Systems is
I'm
available.
voting to motion, let's do a fall cleanup.
It
Do
would
we have a
not
second for
be
fall cleanup?
September 1st or
That was
August
September.
25th, because after September 1st, green comes in session.
But it's a weekend, so it doesn't matter.
That's
So we have a motion on the table to have a fall cleanup. Do we have a second for that anywhere?
Yeah.
Rob
A
seconds?
second, but we still need to consider dates. Are we assuming a September? I would argue it'd be vital, we should do it before the rain goes, that's it for the fall.
Okay.
September
And not
8th.
October?
So we could have a motion on the table to have a fall cleanup with details to be determined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
that works.
Any other discussion on that? We have a motion on the table to have a fall cleanup, details like date and time to be determined, seconded by Rob. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12 in favor, all opposed?
And who moved?
Tina moved, Rob seconded. All opposed? All abstaining? Motion passes. 12. All right, I do not have anything else tonight. Does anyone have anything else before I close the meeting? Luke?
So, Luke Maurer, Learning Gardens Lab Manager. I promise I'm going to be at the front end with announcements. Lots of good things happening, very busy spring. Please save the date, August 11th, 6 to 9 p.m. is the first annual Farm to Fork fundraiser at the Learning Gardens Laboratory. save the date coming out, but I won't see you until the 5th of July, so I wanted to tell folks now.
8th or 9th?
Sorry?
What day was that?
August 11, 6 to 9 p.m.
Now, if I forget, can I Google later and find it?
Yes, and I actually have a reminder set to send you the save the date so that you can spread that too.
And Luke will absolutely be sending me all of that to put in our e-newsletter and our
Yes.
site and our social media.
I will
so
indeed.
we'll be looking for that.
Yes, we're working on excellent communications. The farm stand will open June 27th, 3:30 to 6:30 p.m. We are hosting 3 Lentz Youth Initiative interns through the Rose Community Development Center, one of whom was a Lane student who did 3 years of garden education out there. So lots of virtuous loops there. And other great things, but just wanted to put those on your radar.
Wonderful.
June 27th.
Thank you.
It's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
One for our community
No,
members.
it is
or board
weekly
members.
Wednesdays, 3:30 to
Weekly
6:30.
Wednesday.
Board members who don't know, or community members, the farm stand is held on 60th Avenue, just outside the Learning Gardens Lab, and they sell produce there, grown right there, and are they cash only?
We are working on getting, working through PSU's foundation to get a square so we could swipe cards. Presently cash only, but we're working on it.
If you can't get that happening, maybe the BDNA could help in some way.
That would be amazing.
Because we have
I
a
will-
square
We
reader
have a square.
and it works great.
Awesome, thank you.
So, okay,
Just real
Shannon.
quick, so I'm a volunteer for a local nonprofit called the Portland Area CSA Coalition, so kind of along the same lines.
Excellent.
PACSAC, yeah, so this is our new guide for this year, so this is all the CSAs that are a member of our organization, and it's got like an awesome little chart that tells you what the CSAs offer and when they offer it and so forth. So I've got some of these, I'll leave some up front, and yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Anything else?
I got advantage to fund our entertainment for a national night out.
Woo! Yeah, grand! And what's our band?
Well, right now, it's, once I get the check in hand, once the money's not the check's not in the mail, then it's gonna be probably the Rising Buffalo Tribe, their reggae band for Portland.
Awesome. Will you hook me up with someone with Advantage so we can have a good logo and thank them
Oh,
properly on
yeah,
our
he's
signage?
putting together marketing material that they're
Excellent.
familiar with and probably appreciate, so.
All right, I'm gonna adjourn our meeting. Thank you everybody so much for coming.